you said about M20, more so arena stuff.
Sure.
But
Let's talk
I'm happy
arena.
to talk about M20 too.
Yeah. What like? You know how it goes when you're talking, and I'm talking to Marshall for 2 hours, and I say a lot of stuff. I'm not even sure. I have to let you start because I'm curious what the what things cause some reaction in your brain, and where I might be missing a perspective or two.
Sure. The first area is definitely like bot drafting, which I wouldn't say I necessarily disagreed with anything you said, but I definitely have a slightly different perspective.
What's that?
Well, there's 2 points. One is I think a lot of the times when people talk about what's lacking in bot draft, they miss something to me that's really the worst effect of them. And that's that you don't get to play against a distribution of different decks in the same way you would in an 8-person human draft.
Totally valid. I mentioned that yesterday on stream. In fact, yeah, the play experience is not the same meta you'd experience in paper either. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've definitely had more than my fair share of playing against Heartpiercer Bow.
Right, and it's just because not only the bots don't want them, so everybody has up to between 2 and 5 available to them in any given draft, and you would normally see those 2 to 5 available in a draft spread out among 8 decks, but instead now they're just in one, and so bows are overrepresented. That's totally correct.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, you just never play against like a white-green deck because everybody knows that the bots are drafting. They're probably still drafting white a little bit too high, and it's the worst color, so just nobody will draft white-green.
Well, I've seen.
They know anything about the bots.
Yesterday we faced a couple. Not that I was afraid. Like I've lost some white green. I've been playing a lot of white lately. Actually, I don't not necessarily white green. Tends to be white blue, which of course is I think the best white based color pair. But I feel like the bots have gone off of white so hard that basically if you want the white deck you can have it, right? So what kind of things would put you into white given that? Like do you agree with that? I mean, I feel like white is just wide open every draft. The question is, does that matter?
I think it's more open, but I think the bots still are underdrafting black, so it's pretty hard for me to not draft black.
Yeah,
I think in particular Audacious Thief is still rated too low for them.
Yeah, we got Thieves and Murders really late yesterday, and we went five wins in a best of 3 with a black-green deck that was pretty stacked with late pick Murders and such.
Yeah, I think that black-green and black-blue, you pretty much always get a decent deck, and it's just whether or not you open the rares for whether or not you actually get a good to great deck.
And so talk to me about your history of. I know you did this with Dominaria and to an extent with before the bot changes with even with M20 forcing mono red with success. Is that an object lesson in the failure of the bots, or do you think that's actually you producing the best possible win percentage you can out of your pool? When you
no, it's definitely not me trying to get the best possible win percentage.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that you were doing it to show like this is what can be done given this bot system. Not this is necessarily what you should do if you're trying to make platinum or whatever, whatever the high rating is here.
Yeah, like with Dominaria in particular, I had drafted that a ton before it really started being drafted on Arena. I drafted a lot of it on Magic Online. And I thought that you should be mono red in Dominaria drafting with other humans like between 5 and 10% of the time.
So it was just a good strategy there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it came on to Arena initially, the bots definitely were not drafting the cards for it. So you could just do it every single draft. And I did, I don't know, I streamed like 3 or 4 days where I literally would just only pick red cards.
Yeah, I heard about that. I didn't watch any of that, but it was notorious enough that I did hear about it, I think from Marshall or something, that you were pulling off that strategy with great effect. So yeah, just like, again, since I had only heard it secondhand, I wanted to get into your head about what your thought process is when choosing to do that. And it sounds like it was two different thought processes for the two different formats, really.
Well, yeah, I did it with M20 in part because with the initial version of the bots, definitely some of the red cards were way too low in their rankings. So you could do it again, and I just thought it'd be fun. I don't think it's nearly as good in M20 as it was in Dominaria.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to see, like, we forced red in M20 as a stipulation on Monday, I think, and then rattled off 7 wins with it pretty easily. Although we went, like, pack 3 was just, we picked up 4 brawlers or something like that. We had 5 brawlers, 4 spitters, and 2 smugglers, and you know, some ember cats, and that was basically all that was needed to just close out these games really quickly. So
yeah,
I still don't think they're valuing brawlers enough. But I mean, this is, I can't remember exactly what I said about it on the show or what you've heard of it, but what I keep explaining to people as someone, as the person who built the bots, you know, I started the bot project at WotC, but my goalposts at the time were to create the no clock kiddie pool draft for newer players. That's what this was for. Like my goalposts were for something completely different than support all drafting on Arena indefinitely. Right? If that had been my goalposts, I would have insisted, or certainly levied hard for deeper AI, deeper metagame awareness, self-correcting. There's lots of ways to solve the problem. Hey, thank you for that sub. But yeah, it was just like, it wasn't worth doing given the goalposts I had. And then I leave and they were like, yeah, we're just going to go with this for everything. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be, it's not going to quite do what you want. But anyway.
Yeah, this is another area where I guess I had a slightly different perspective. I mean, I certainly understand the idea of making kind of this basic form of bot drafting to have a way for people to, you know, get into limited that is less intimidating. It's something they can get working easier potentially. But, and this is something that, like, I worked in computer programming for about 7 or 8 years at Carnegie Mellon on projects that used actual AI. And the way that the bots are built is just not really, there isn't a path to upgrade them to make them meaningfully better, because it's not built on a sort of a framework that would lead to actually successfully making something really good at drafting. So I would just say that I really hope Wizards doesn't take the perspective that we like this bot drafting, we're going to stick with that and just try to improve it over time, because it's not really going to get better without a massive amount of work.
Yeah,
like basically without starting over.
You could start. Honestly, you could start over, because the work, it doesn't have a lot of work in it, honestly. Or I don't know. I haven't been there for a year now, so who knows how much work they've put into it exactly. I know they've added personalities and whatnot, but again, it was so the way it evolved is the very first drafting we did on Arena internally was actually Kaladesh, and it was at the end of 2015, I believe. So we actually had drafting in pretty early, but like a lot of software projects, basically everything was rewritten. You know, so like the everything got a huge overhaul that made that early success not even exist anymore. But what we found was that we were, in order to test it, you know, you had to find 7 other humans or coordinate a time, set up a meeting, because you needed 7 other humans even to enter the queue. And really, bots started as an internal tool to allow people to test the existing draft structures and draft code without needing 7 other people. And then we're like, well, you know, we can make just some simple rules on top, you know, because they were picking arbitrarily, right? Just to be able to fire it, they were picking randomly. It's like, well, you know, we can go from picking random to just using some data to have them pick something sensible. And then basically all we layered onto that was the ability to recognize the colors of cards and to lock into color pairs, and then only pick from effectively those things. And so it's super simple system. So you're right in this, like, not only might you have to, but you might as well. It's not like it's a deep system because again, it was set up for different goalposts. But
well, I've talked to like Lee Sharp about this.
Yeah,
and it's just they're never going to get an actual good bot drafting thing because it requires someone who has like a PhD in machine learning to come and start the project, and they're not going to hire that person because
it's not worth it.
Just
that's what people. I've had a lot of comments on the internet, Reddit and whatnot after the episode saying, "Well, is this can you even make it? Is it a solvable problem?" Or people suggesting, "Well, what if you did this as your bot system?" It's like, well, sure, all of that is possible, but it comes down to what Wizards wants to spend money on. Might have lost. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Making some beeps here. That's all.
Yeah, I'm certainly in the camp that the way the bots are, it's fine that it exists and it serves a purpose, but they really need 8-person drafting.
So that comes to, I agree. I think everybody here does, and I don't know why it hasn't been at least announced. Like, I don't know. It was always the intent when I was on the team, so I don't know what's changed to drive away from even picking it up as a thing they're talking about with the community, given how many people are asking for it. One of the things I've talked about though a lot on stream is the various design constraints pushing Wizards in different directions on where and when to offer ranked draft versus unranked. And I really wonder, so let's say they do it. They introduce all human drafting, and to me, if you're going to do that, like part of your goal is authenticity. And if you're going to introduce all human drafts, it has to be in the context of best of 3, or like, what are you doing? Like you gotta marry those two together so that you can offer true authenticity and be able to slap that label on your product, I think. But then they get into this situation where, well, what is ranked? Is it best of 1? Is it best of 3? Is it both? And I'm just curious what you think about the fact that best of 1 is being held up as the thing to pursue rank in limited, and best of 3 is almost the casual room, even though it's got a steeper curve. It's all very weird.
Well, I would say that, I mean, I kind of think that they should just start over, like with a blank piece of paper with what their limited offerings are, because it just doesn't make any sense right now.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be hard pressed to find people who it's actually serving well. Because like as a competitive player, which that's what I consider myself to be.
Sure.
I would prefer to be playing best of 3. I'd prefer to be playing with just only the normal, like only real shuffling, not the rigged shuffling.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that ranked, and also just the structure of the traditional, where you play like potentially 7 rounds with your deck. As someone who streams, that's like a bad ratio of drafting to playing if you're gonna stream limited.
Well, it's funny because you're I was in those discussions too of exactly how to gate these formats in terms of win-loss. And on the one hand, you want people to feel like they're getting play value for their money. And on the other hand, you don't want people to feel like you are, which is, I'm done with this. And unfortunately, it's like a tax on the good players because, you talk about having to play 7 games or whatever. Most people don't, Andrew. Most people are done after 5, So it's like, I hear this complaint most from the top players who are the ones most likely to be playing decks longer than they want to because they're good, But I do agree, like, I kind of like the 7-3 for best of 1, but again, I want that to be ideally in my world. That's the kiddie pool, and then best of 3 would reduce to single elim 3-win 1-loss gating. That's what I would do there, like, because that would make us happy, right? Because then you get, if you have the best of 1 7-win that takes a little longer than the average top player wants to spend with one given deck, if they make best of 3 human draft ranked and allow you to make rank progress on it and reduce it down to single elimination, basically just say play until you win 3 times or lose once, which mimics Magic Online competitive, then you got your walled gardens for the different player types, and I think everybody would be happier in that world. We'll see if they ever get there though.
Yeah, I have a question, or and maybe you can comment on this, maybe you can't. It's so I've been in the Arena beta for about as long as it's was in beta, like before the NDA lifted. And it's always been my impression that it seems like development is going fairly slowly. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that I think that they're finding it harder to keep up with the pace of the release of sets than they were anticipating.
That could be part of it, but ostensibly that should be getting easier based on the game rules engine that was created. One of the first things that I saw happen at Wizards was getting this game rules engine thing off the ground, and ostensibly they are it's supposed to get easier and easier to make sets because the more they teach it, the more it can auto parse the new set or whatever, you know.
Well, I understand that effort, and like I can certainly see why they wanted to do that coming from a Magic Online world where that was always like a lot of work had to go into coding every card, is my understanding. Or many cards for Magic Online.
Many cards. There was some auto parsing in Magic Online too that got pretty good, but yes, there's always work to do. Especially on the user interface, right? Like the card may function according to the rules, but it doesn't mean it automatically has a UI.
Well, yeah, I think that's a big part of the what's happening with Arena is that it's, as far as I can tell, the game rules engine works really well. I think I've only ever seen one thing that I would say was a bug with it in the entire time I've played Arena. But I wonder if it's just not saving them enough time with the new card development, because they still need to do all the UI coding for all the cards, as far as I can tell, or certainly like the problematic cards. For the UI, they have to invest a lot of effort into getting to work well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that changed during my time at Wizards was a better connection between digital and R&D in terms of what cards were even going to be printed. There's an infamous story for Magic Online around the card. I forget. It's
Whimsy of Fate, I think.
Whims of Fate. That basically was a card that asked players to separate all of their permanents into 3 piles, and beyond that it's just a throwaway, not load bearing, wacky rare that is not going to see much play in any format. But lead developer, let's see who, I think it was Tom Lapilli designed that card, and it ended up because there had been no card in Magic history that asked players to put cards into 3 piles, it effectively broke the Mitgo development team, and they spent this inordinate amount of time on this one card that nobody would play in any format, and it was such a lesson for the two groups that it really changed how we approached communication about cards and how soon digital would get to see the file, so we could push back and say, hey, this card is difficult, does it need to exist, you know? So all that stuff was happening, but I still think you're still ultimately beholden to R&D. You know, if they think it is load bearing, they're going to make you code that card. But I think you may be right that the challenges of implementing the fire hose of content that is Magic the Gathering digitally is a significant undertaking that is hard to fathom until you're doing it. Like, you get games like Hearthstone that produce 1/5 of the cards a year that Magic does. It's crazy. It's a lot of content. But I think the departments are so segmented on the MTG Arena team. The problem of card sets being hard to push out the door shouldn't actually impact the systems team's ability to improve deck building or whatever, right? Unless they have said, we are pulling bodies off of these other teams to throw at card set so that they can keep up, then you're losing development time on the other stuff. But ostensibly it should be able to go, it's parallel processing there, right? So I think just making games is hard. I think they're probably working really hard on features that are gonna, my prediction is in the next, let's say 3 months, 3 to 5 months, we'll get a major update involving social. I think the next big thing they're working on is likely to be social, given how important they seem to think it was when I was at Wizards. And then then maybe we go, oh, that's what you've been working on. Like, change can feel slow until they announce and launch the thing that they've clearly been working on all that time. And so like Mastery Pass was such a thing, right? We were like, what is the progress? What are they working on? And then they released this Mastery Pass thing. It's like, okay, that was no doubt a lot of work for a lot of people. And whether it's for you or not is open question. But the point is we only really understood what they'd been working on after they announced it. So I'm kind of looking forward to the next big announcement to understand where those efforts have been going. Hopefully it'll be about the human drafting that they're announcing. But
yeah, that's fair. But they also there's been a pretty long track record in the beta now of things not moving at a pace that I would consider to be fast.
It's hard to say, man. All I can say is that on the inside, I was working on a team of. I don't want to use, I was almost going to say the word frantic, but that makes it sound like it's chaotic and uncontrolled. But just the amount of hard work with taking place all around me all the time was pretty insane. I just think it's hard. I mean, you've been in software. It's often hard to see where the work went, and you never know what problem tripped up some programmer for 2 weeks that, if they had figured out a different way, could have done it faster or something. I don't know. I think all software development feels slow. I feel like I wait for improvements from every software I engage with, but maybe I'm just being defensive of my former peeps. But I think they're all working hard, and this is just a beast of a project to get rolling in the right direction.
Yeah, I certainly believe you that the people that are working there are working hard. I just do kind of wonder if they have enough people, or if they have the people's, if the overall structure of the project makes sense and it's producing the best result it can, because it does. I don't know how much you or your viewers pay attention to the MPL or like the kind of top tier competitive arena events.
I think there's a lot of attention paid. Yeah.
One thing that it's not a secret, but probably a lot of people don't know it, is every match of that I've played this year, I've had to be on voice comms with my opponent just to overcome issues with the software.
Yeah, because it's not made to do that kind of stuff, right? Like, well, when you say issues with the software, go a little deeper there. Is it issues because it's not set up to do MPL type tournament structures, or something different?
That's a small part of it. The bigger problem is that the priority system doesn't work correctly it doesn't work perfectly in all instances. So like there was a bug with Legion War Boss.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I know. You go ahead. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. For a long time, where if you had a cast down in your hand and your opponent cast a Legion War Boss, they would always get the token if you weren't in full control mode.
Right. You had to know to hit full control.
Yes, you had to know before they even cast it. So,
and the uncommon untap your lands had the same problem. Yes. Maybe still does. I don't know if it still does. I don't play a lot of constructed.
Think they fixed that one. So like that was if you watched the last tournament in Vegas, this actually happened on camera where they had a long judge call in a match between Marcio and I think Muffin Pastry Pie. The gamer handles are hard for me to keep track of.
Let me tell you.
But I mean,
talking to users. Hello, Snivjblokik. Yeah. Anyway,
so the rules we're playing under are like if this Legion War Boss thing, if you were about to cast a Legion War Boss, you had to verbally announce to your opponent, "I'm about to cast a Legion War Boss," and then they would put on full control mode. Then you could cast it, and then things would work out. So they finally fixed that problem after it took like 6 or 8 months. But there's still problems with flash creatures. If you're going to cast a flash creature, and there's also problems with O-ring effects. Like you're required to announce you're going to do this before you do it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Which is...
We had a whole... And this is another thing of software development. You get ideas, you put them down, you even start towards them, but then they get deprioritized and you don't get to finish them. There are systems in place that would allow for customized reactions to lines of rule text in terms of auto stopping and pausing and where you get priority. So you could take like the snippet of rules text for the Legion War Boss that triggers at, like, what is it, at the beginning of combat, right? So you could take that string of text and identify all cards that say that, and then say that for the foreseeable future, all cards that have that line of text get an automatic stop put in on, well, you know, the way they fixed it, right? So like they fixed Legion War Boss, you could apply that same fix to anything that had that rules text to it. And I feel like that tech is available. I just don't, like, again, it's like, is it lack of human resources to actually execute on that stuff? I don't know. But the tools are there to respond more rapidly to fails on that front. Like when you see, oh geez, tournament staple Legion War Boss has this awful experience, it should be easy to not only fix that quickly, but also fix it for all future cards like it. So I'm a little surprised that that's been a rough patch, but again, it's always hard to know what's going on in the rooms, in the buildings, in the meetings, where they're prioritizing stuff, what's breaking, what's on fire, you know, and how quickly I go from a dev on the inside looking at all the fires, looking at all the priorities and pulling my hair out, to just being a customer going, why don't I have the thing I want? But, you know, that's what I am now, so I get to say that. And we're being hosted by Wizards, so hi, WotC folk. Why don't I have the thing I want? He says to his former self. Hey, thanks for that sub, Nick. Speaking of former WotC peeps, I worked on Arena with Nick for quite a while. Ob Nicholas there. Well, we should probably get to drafting here, Andrew, and you got to go get your stream going yourself. I really appreciate you stopping by to chat. Love hearing your perspective.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
And yeah, if you have if you want to check out Andrew's stream, he's over at /Andrew Cuneo. And you want to see someone draft better than me, go watch Andrew. Go watch Andrew.
It's very rare that I try to draft maximizing to win, so it wouldn't surprise me if you could learn more watching your stream.
Well, you'll have fun either way, so lots of choices out there. Anyway, thank you, Andrew. Andrew, there's your new name. Thank you, Mr. Cuneo. We will talk to you again soon. I'll hop on your stream sometime if you like.
Sure.
All right. See ya.
Good talking to you. Bye.
That was nice of Andrew. Andrew, as you can call him now. Don't call him that.